You can please have a seat in the back. We'll get started here. I didn't get a chance to see the Clint Eastwood bit on the Republican debate, but I understand it's something about an empty chair. We had a great time last night, a bunch of the speakers getting together, and sometime we'll have to try to record all the stuff that's said off camera and pull that on. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Don Serow. Don is, I think, just coming out with his first book, although he's a pretty famous astrologer. And while we've had many astrologers attend the conference, we've never really had an astrologer as a speaker. Although, as one of our speakers mentioned yesterday, astrology and astronomy were really one and the same science up until fairly recently. I just myself read a book called The Book That Nobody Read by Owen Gingrich, and he's an astronomer at Harvard University. And he was trying to find out how many people actually read De Revolutionibus, which was the Copernicus book that gave us the heliocentric system. And with that quest, he went and tracked down all the books that he could, and he was looking for writing in the margins to see if anybody actually read it. And he thought he'd find a few copies. He found over 600 copies. And the church had decreed, as you probably know, that parts of this book were blasphemy. And so they had ordered that you cross out certain parts of the book. And of the 600 copies, he found 3 copies right around Rome where they actually crossed out that section. All the others, it wasn't crossed out. And on the copy that Kepler owned, they found that. They found on the back some horoscopes. And so one of the greatest astronomers that ever lived was an astrologer. So we're very happy to have with us a very good astrologer, astronomer. Will you please welcome Don Serow?
Thank you, Arthur. Very generous. Hope that's not auspicious. I'd like to take just a second and to tune in and welcome the energy. Thank you all so much for being here. Muses of Pieria who give glory through song, come thither. Tell of Zeus, your father, and chant his praise. Through him mortal men are famed or unfamed, sung or unsung, as great Zeus wills. And with that, namaste. Well, we have 6,000 years to cover. I have to teach you a new language, and we've got 45 minutes. Fasten your seatbelts and hang on to your crown chakras. It's showtime. The dragon is a universal symbol around the globe. Whether as Draco, the constellation, whether as the flame-spitting cobra of the pharaoh, the winged serpent of the Americas, and various other guises, we find the dragon involved in mythologies the world around, the Tai, the imperial dragon of the Chinese. Why? If this is a mythological symbol that has no basis in reality, should it be so pervasive around the world, over and over again, sometimes with wings, sometimes without? Whether it's Hercules and the Chaos, whether it's St. Michael and St. George and the dragon, whether it's again Hercules and the Hydra, whether it's Cadmus at Thebes, or Apollo and the Python at the Pythia, where he had to conquer the dragon before taking over the oracle at Delphi. Set and Apophis in the Egyptian pantheon. Marduk and Tiamat in the Mesopotamian lore. And even in the book of Revelation, 12:4, we find the dragon whose tail sweeps out a third of the stars of heaven. The whole presentation is basically set on center and circle, center and circle, center and circle. The center that we're working with is the North Pole, and the circle that we're working with is the Earth's equator. Now, these are the terrestrial pole and terrestrial equator. They are the Earth's pole and the Earth's equator. Into this, we're going to mix spring, and much of what we're going to be taking a look at here are the creation myths of time. And of the 4 seasons, spring is perhaps the best to go along with creation myths because that's when the earth gives birth. The flowers, the trees, the leaves begin to come back, and we see this throughout nature. So this is one of the 4 points that was very much used by antiquity. And yet the lights are a little strong here, but this is fine. The stars of heaven are not necessarily an easy place to get around in if you don't know your way. Here we have a golden thread that is being woven through the stars to help us. And basically, this is the path of the sun. The ecliptic is what astronomers call it. And along this path, we find the constellations of the zodiac: Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. And most of the constellations that we'll be working with, these are our current springtime constellations. If we throw in Pisces, we have one evening sky that is all easily observable, and this is the hour hand that civilization has largely forgotten. We no longer use this. So if we step back to what astrologers call age of Pisces, what the astronomers like to call when the vernal equinox is passing through the constellation of Pisces, and we take where the Earth's equator is currently cutting that path, being the ecliptic, this is our present time. This is where we are at the moment. And indeed, if we take where these 2 lines cross, it proves that X marks the spot. And we're going to be using this X as an ecliptic timeline to go back and forth through history and beyond, actually, to take a look at what we're dealing with here. Now, the terrestrial equator and the terrestrial pole, if you simply extend them into space, they become the celestial equator and the celestial pole. Because we live on a circular world, we tend to superimpose our dimensions on the heavens around us. But if you think that space is infinity, no matter which direction you extend and where you go, then a circle is really arbitrary, but it's a reflection of our world reality. So naturally, we present that. Now, one of the chief myths that is going to be the focus of much of our theme tonight is the myth of Kronos and his mother Gaia. Gaia had a problem with her husband Ouranos, who was the starry sky. The starry sky would come down and lie with Gaia every night, impregnate her, but not let her give birth to her children. So as one might well imagine, that was a painful condition. And she complained to her youngest, apparently as yet unborn son, Kronos, about this. She supplied him with a flint sickle and said, "Do something about Dad, would you please?" So Dad came down, as was his wont, through the course of that evening to lie with Gaia. And Kronos jumps out from behind a rock. I suspect this is a megalithic myth that we're being talked about, and castrates Dad with a cut. But it is precisely this that we're being given and told here, that where the cut in heaven is being made, whether that cut is through a spear, a dagger, the sickle, a sword, an arrow, or even, as the Chinese use it and indicate, a common pin, this is the point in heaven that is being referenced. And this is the common vocabulary that's being used to indicate where this point is being referenced. The myth may be different in its origin, in its name, in its characters, but that's precisely what Kronos is doing, and where he cuts off the severed genitals